We talk about human invention and creativity in science, technology, and the arts. We talk about all the drama and intrigue, insight and personal conviction that constantly bubble just below the surface of a world built by human hands. We honor complexity at the same time we keep things understandable. Do join me. We'll have a lot of fun together.
Weekdays at 5:45 on KSJE. This program is supported by MyLabs, patient-ordered testing. San Juan Regional Medical Center is expanding its services to offer low-cost blood screenings year-round. Now offering walk-in convenience to get the blood tests you want when you want them. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, is available at the hospital's laboratory and the Outpatient Diagnostic Center on 30th Street in Farmington. With nearly 20 tests available, there's an option for everyone. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, a wellness service of San Juan Regional Medical Center. .14 past 8 o'clock. It is Friday morning, September the 7th. And good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM. I am speaking to you from our visual radio studio here at San Juan College, and we welcome aboard our viewers who are watching us live this morning on the KSJE Facebook page and the KSJE YouTube channel. And if you haven't already done so, we invite you to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel and, of course, like us on Facebook. Coming up in just a moment this morning, my guests here on the Scott Michlin Morning Program from the Child Haven C.A.S.A program in San Juan County. They've got some trainings coming up in October. They're always looking for more C.A.S.A volunteers, and we'll talk about that program and the important work that it does for children in our community. That is coming up in just a few moments here on KSJE, so we hope you'll stay tuned for that. Later on this morning at 9 a.m., Mick Hess will take over the studio, and here is a combination of musicians for you. Coming up today on the program, more music related to the One Book, One Community selection this year here at San Juan College called March. It's about civil rights protests in the 1960s, of course, and today Mick is playing for us some examples of musical protests in history. Jean Sibelius and Arlo Guthrie. You'll hear selections from both coming up today at 9 on Roving with the Arts. And then back here in our visual radio studio at noon today, we invite you to join us because we'll be listening to and seeing San Juan Symphony Music Director Thomas Heuser will be my guest at noon, talking about next weekend's family concerts featuring Peter and the Wolf. From the San Juan Symphony, there'll be performances in Farmington, Bayfield, and Durango. So we want to let you know about that coming up today at noon here on KSJE. So we hope you will check it out. KSJE.com, of course, and 90.9 FM. Joining me here in the studio from the C.A.S.A program of San Juan County, Amy O'Neill, the program director, is back in the studio with me. Amy, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks for being here. Also joining us here in the studio is Becky Adams. She is the volunteer supervisor for the C.A.S.A program. Becky, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me be here.
You bet. It's great to have you here. And also you brought with you one of your interns, Ashley Lovato, who goes to school at New Mexico Highlands University. Ashley, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
You bet. Good to have you here as well. Thank you all for coming in. And let's get started, Amy, by the question I ask you all the time, which is, talk to me a little bit about the C.A.S.A program for folks who are just hearing about it today. I don't know where they've been all these years, but remind us a little bit again about the C.A.S.A program, would you?
Yes, will do. So the CASA program is a program of Child Haven, and a CASA volunteer, court-appointed special advocate volunteer, is a trained community volunteer who advocates for the best interests of a child in foster care, to be a part of the team to help that child reach a safe and permanent home.
Got it. And so, and of course, San Juan County has a CASA program. Not every county has access to these volunteers, right, who help in the court system.
Yes, very true, because we are in the 11th Judicial District, and even McKinley County doesn't have a CASA program at this time.
Got you. And so, and how many cases do you have right now in San Juan County that volunteers are working with?
Good question. Right now, I think we have about 65 active cases, and I can kind of give you over a year, so that would let you know. During the last fiscal year, CASA volunteers did serve 156 children. There were 14 children that we weren't able to have a CASA volunteer advocate, and those cases are monitored from the CASA office. So presently we do have, I think, 16 children who do not have a CASA volunteer. So that's why we're always recruiting and training for new CASA volunteers for our upcoming training in October.
Right, which is why you're here today to
Yes,
talk about that
yes.
upcoming training, right? And so, Becky Adams, let me ask you, because you work with the volunteers, the need for more, because there's a waiting list, correct?
Yes, we have those children that she just mentioned, some 16, that right now don't have a volunteer that's advocating for them. And it's very important that they have an advocate so that that permanence can be reached in a timely fashion and their needs can be taken care of in the meantime.
Right. Okay. Very good. And let me bring into the conversation here Ashley Lovato, who is interning. And Ashley, you're going to school in New Mexico Highlands. So what are you studying there? Is it obviously probably related to this, right?
I am studying social work.
Okay. And give us a little bit of your background, too, then. What got you involved with the CASA program?
I grew up in foster care. I was in Child Haven when I was young. I was about 10 years old, and you know how it feels to be on that side.
Right. And so with your classes, I mean, how is the work that you're doing with the CASA program helping in your classes? I bet it's giving you quite the insight, too, even with your background.
Yes. It all ties in. It works. I'm learning a lot. It's really interesting.
Very good. Okay. Amy O'Neill, let me come back to you a little bit and talk about this training that's coming up, and we'll talk more about it in the second half of the program, but this is something that you do twice a year, right, looking for new volunteers?
Yes, usually in April and October we have a pre-service training. It is 5 nights from 5:30 to 9 o'clock and one all-day Saturday. This time it is October 20th. So if you're interested in becoming a CASA volunteer, we do have an information packet that we send out to you. So please give us a call at 505-325-5358 and press 6, and that'll take you to the CASA program. And we're very happy to answer any and all questions and send you our information packet.
Okay. And what are the requirements to be a CASA volunteer? You have to be 18 at least, right?
21.
21, pardon. See, that's why I asked the question, because I don't remember.
To become a CASA volunteer, you do have to be 21 years of age, but we do invite students at San Juan College who are interested. They're very welcome to come to our training if their teacher allows them as part of their service learning. So we're very lucky to have experts in the field of child welfare that train the CASA volunteers, so you really do learn a lot about child welfare in San Juan County by attending.
Right. And you brought one of your San Juan College interns with you as well, who we'll hear from in the second half of the show. So,
yes, yes.
So that is great. But it's a really worthwhile thing for interns to sit in and to get exposed to, as you mentioned, because of all these issues that the CASA volunteers deal with, and get a little insight into the court system, too.
That's very true. One of our volunteers who helped me present to classes last year used to say, you know, never did I think I would be able to speak easily with a mom of a child who was fighting meth addiction, homelessness, and that really being able to connect with that mom and talk to her about setting up a calendar, what resources, and being able to see the resources available for children with special needs. So it's amazing what you learn.
Right, right. Becky Adams, let me turn back to you a little bit about being a CASA volunteer and the types of volunteers that you're looking for. People have to be over 21, but I imagine it's also important to have some volunteers who are maybe male to work with little boys, or female to work with little girls, or Hispanic, or Native American, or things along that line too.
Yes, it's very valuable for us to be able to fit the children with someone that will be able to relate to them or to relate to the family dynamics. So therefore, those that are maybe familiar with Native American background, the family relations of that type, or someone who speaks Spanish is valuable. Males, yes, definitely. And then all ages, all walks of life.
Right, right. And the idea is you try to really match up these volunteers with the child and with the families, and they get an idea of the case that they're getting into when they get signed up, correct?
Yes. We ask them to fill out a little questionnaire that helps us to know what kind of case they would prefer, maybe what age, what gender of child, or, you know, just different things that would make them more comfortable. But then we always let them review the case before they agree to take it.
Right. And you ask for about a year commitment from these volunteers?
Yes. We would like the continuity of having the same CASA on a case so that the child knows who's going to be there. That is many times the one person in their life that they can depend on being a constant at that time.
Right. And it helps, I guess, too, with the continuity about following that court case and all the different processes and procedures that the families may be doing and the child is doing, and to kind of have that longevity with all those involved, I suppose.
Many times the CASA volunteer is the one person in the case that is very familiar with all the aspects of the case, because they get to talk to everybody in the case, basically.
Right.
So that helps them to be more familiar with the case than many of the others that are involved.
Sure. And so, Amy O'Neill, let me ask you a little bit about that application, because I guess with the training coming up in October, now would be the time to maybe get that application packet if someone's thinking about becoming a CASA volunteer, and getting that all filled out so everything's good to go for the training in October.
Yes, very true. We do have an application procedure. We do a background check, so that includes references, local background check, as well as the fingerprint background check. That's not needed to be all completed before the training, but it's best if we can. So if you're interested, please give us a call so we can get those things going for you.
And in the past, I know we've talked about CASA volunteers being over 21, of course, but it also works very well for retired folks, and all kinds of different individuals, correct?
We have all walks of life, as Becky said, from students at San Juan College and Highlands to retired people to full-time employees.
Right. And Becky, when you are having folks fill out that application, I mean, what types of things are they being asked about? Their background, their relationships with children, if they have children of their own, or what types of things is important to know?
We do ask them some of their background. Of course, in doing a background check, they do have to give their history as far as where they resided, any criminal charges, of course,
right,
that we need to look at and work with, so that we'll have that heads up.
That's not an automatic disqualification?
Not
criminal
every
charges?
sort
Okay.
of criminal charge would be automatic.
Right. Okay. But they still need to be honest about them, I suppose, right? 'Cause
Definitely.
you don't want
So
them
we
to
know
say
what
they
to
don't
do.
have any, and you find out that they do, and then that's not very good.
Yes, and there's certain steps we have to take to be able to get around that criminal charge, if there is one.
Sure.
They provide us, of course, with their different references, personal references, business references, a good background of their employment, so that we can check that out.
Good to know. Very good. Amy O'Neill, with the commitment that you're asking folks to give you as a CASA volunteer, again, these cases may last a year, but sometimes they last longer than a year, I suppose, and maybe some of them don't want to give up that spot to see the case through to its conclusion, whatever that may be.
Yes, we are very lucky to have volunteers who have stayed for a case up to 6 years. We had a very happy adoption last year, but unfortunately it took 6 years to get there.
Wow.
We have a volunteer who's been on the case since day one with another case that's coming towards the end, but she's had a turnover of different care providers, social workers, so she's been that consistent there with that case. We do statistics, and we are able to say that last year, over the children whose case is closed and they reached a safe and permanent home, the average was that they were in foster care for 2 years. So that's still quite a long time, because that means some of them were longer and some a little shorter.
Right. That's true.
But we do ask that the volunteer has maybe 8 to 10 hours that they would spend on the case. That's usually, it wouldn't be much more than that.
That's the average for every month, I guess? Is that?
Yes, monthly, yes.
Right. And a lot of these cases, too, I think employers are very willing to work with an employee who's a CA.S.A volunteer if they need to get away for a meeting or a court something or a meeting with the child or the family or what have you during the workday. Employers have been pretty understanding, haven't they?
They have been very understanding, and we're very thankful for that. And again, the visits to the child at the foster home or at the school, that would be on the volunteer's own time. So they would kind of decide, I can maybe go before dinner or maybe Saturday morning, and they would talk with the placement, whether it's Child Haven Shelter or a foster placement, and work that out between them to visit.
Right. And but that's important for folks to know, and I think, too, to try to schedule that in with their other commitments, because all of us are busy, and you hear that a lot, I'm sure, with the folks that want to be a volunteer, but a lot of these court cases and court hearings are scheduled weeks, if not months, in advance, so it's pretty easy to maybe work around some of these things because of the advance notice that you get, correct?
Yes, very true. I was reminding a volunteer yesterday by email, and she had emailed me back, I'm out of town for work, but I have these on my calendar, and I've done my visits, and so it was just good feedback to hear.
Right. Very good. And Ashley, let me turn back to you a little bit about someone who's been in the foster care program, and so as some of the insights that you're seeing from being an intern with the C.A.S.A volunteer, share a little bit of this with us, if you don't mind, about your experience in foster care.
It's
about how much time were you in foster care?
I would say about 2 to 3 years of foster care.
Right. And did you have a C.A.S.A volunteer working with you at that time?
I did not have a C.A.S.A volunteer at the time.
I see. And so I imagine you can see how it might have benefited you in your situation now. Yes,
doing my intern now and seeing what C.A.S.A does, I would have thought it would have really benefited if I would have had somebody there for me.
Right. Right. Which, again, going back to Amy and Becky, is why it's so important to try to have as many C.A.S.A volunteers as you have children who need them, correct?
Yes, we would like one C.A.S.A volunteer on each case. Sometimes we have to have a C.A.S.A volunteer cover 2 cases. That is not the optimal thing, because we want one C.A.S.A to be able to follow one case, one set of siblings.
Right. That makes sense. And again, Amy, all different ages, right, of children in the foster care system. It goes from infant to, what, 18, right?
Yes. So if an adolescent would then turn to an adult at age 18, they would be dismissed from the case. But we do have from newborns all the way to children, youth almost turning 18 that have advocates at this time or need advocates.
Right. And again, the idea being that the volunteer can kind of pick and choose to a certain degree what type of maybe age group that they want to work with, if they're more comfortable with infants or toddlers or teenagers or what have you, I suppose, right?
Yes, we have received feedback sometimes that the volunteer will say, well, you know, I don't feel comfortable taking an infant because I would like someone who's verbal. So then we would always take that into consideration. We would never have a volunteer take a case they felt uneasy about. As Becky said, we let them take a look at the case, sometimes we don't have all that much information if the case just started. And if they do feel uncomfortable at that time, then we ask them, will you think about it? But if you'd like to wait for a different case, that's fine with us. Because once you commit, we want you to stay with it. That's the thing, yes.
Of course, exactly. My guest this morning from the San Juan County C.A.S.A program, we are talking about the upcoming training, which will be happening in October. And now is the time to get an information packet if you're interested in becoming a C.A.S.A volunteer, because the need is there. There are more children than there are volunteers at the moment, unfortunately, in San Juan County. And so the word is going out for C.A.S.A volunteers. Let's take a short break, everybody. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of musical chairs and have some new guests joining us in the second half of the show. So stay tuned for that, everybody. Back with more in just a moment on KSJE.
The Equifax breach, a year